Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Live Penguin TV. My name's Sky. I'm going to be your host for tonight, and it is a really special night tonight. Not only have we got T, Ranger T.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Who'll be checking out your questions on Facebook. We've got another special guest who's also going to be looking at your questions on Facebook and YouTube. We've got Ranger Russ.
Hi.
And Russ is a data analyst who's going to be answering some of your questions a little bit later in the stream. Then after that, it is a really special night as well because we are doing spring sessions for the soul, which is some live music from wonderful artists such as Felix from the Cat Empire. We've got Alice Sky, great name. And we've got the Orb Weavers. T's desperate to get my attention.
We've got Penguins at Water's Edge.
Penguins at Water's Edge. Oh, gosh, it's all happening. Okay. So we've got Spring Sessions for the Soul coming up later. The link will be in the description. That's going to be going ahead at 8:30. But, yep, it is. Oh, gosh, there's too much to do at the moment. We're going to be cutting to Ross a little bit later in the stream. Ooh, got some people in my way. All right. Where's these penguins, T?
Just trying to find out.
So we're just trying to find out where the penguins. You can see that we've actually got a huge waterfall coming off the rocks. Now, I know that there was a waterfall last night from our ephemeral pool, but it has gone. Oh, yes, I see them, I think. It's gone even crazier tonight, and there's the penguins. They're going to have to be swimming upstream, kind of like salmon, I think, tonight to get up that waterfall. So you can see their white bellies poking out of the water here. And they don't look like they're so sure to come in just yet. It does feel a little bit early, though it has got quite dark all of a sudden. So we might be seeing some penguins crossing this beach reasonably soon. I guess there's not really much beach tonight, is there? As this waterfall is kind of taking over the whole beach. It's just water from beach to rocks. So this will be an interesting one for us to watch tonight to see what they do. So, yep, we are coming to you live from the Penguin Parade tonight. And the Penguin Parade is found on Malau, so Phillip Island. And it is known as Malau by the Bunurong people, who are the traditional custodians of Malau. So I'd just like to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, as I said, we've got a special guest tonight, Ross, our data analyst, and I'm just going to get him while we watch these penguins decide whether they're going to cross the beach or not. I'm going to get Ross to just tell you guys a little bit about what it is he does so that you know what sort of questions you should be asking him.
Well, I am data analyst, so I deal with the information that comes from the field. So I'm not generally the person who picks up penguins or weighs them or measures them and things like that. I'm usually the person who looks at the data and tries to figure things out from that, basically. So the questions that I'm most comfortable with are the kinds of questions that are, how do you know that? So there's probably a lot of regulars on the stream. I can see that there's a lot of people with a little diamond above their name. They've probably heard a lot of facts from the rangers, and these rangers have an endless stream of facts. I am most suited to answering, how do you know that? How did you figure that out? That's my kind of specialty. But anything you can come up with, I'm willing to have a crack.
Fantastic. So we can't wait to see some of your really interesting questions for Ross tonight as the stream goes on. Now, of course, he's one of our researchers here at Phillip Island Nature Parks, and he's just one of a big team of researchers who look into all things penguin and all things conservation, because we do research to help with the conservation aims that we have got. So we are a not-for-profit conservation organisation here at Phillip Island Nature Parks. So we are doing our best to conserve Phillip Island and keep penguins coming back for generations to come, but we also look after koalas who have been caught up in the bushfires. We've got a koala conservation reserve. We have look after most of the south side beaches. We look after the knobbies, and we look after a good 20%, do you reckon, of Phillip Island? I reckon that's about right, 20% T? Yeah, 20% of the island we look after. So if you want to support the work that we do, you can have a look in the description to a link to the Penguin Foundation, and you can donate to our cause. You can adopt a penguin. You can become a penguin pal. You can do all sorts of things like that to help us out and help us with the work that we do. you can also see in the description, hopefully by now, a link to the Spring Sessions for the Soul, the live music event that's going to be happening directly after this at 8:30. So make sure after this tonight that you click out of our link, out of our stream, and head on over to see Felix from the Cat Empire, Alice Sky, and the Orb Weavers working their magic. It's going to be a really special night. And this is to finish the Nature Festival, the Victorian Nature Festival that we've been having some fun with over the last few weeks. So it's an action-packed night tonight. And these penguins are, look, have we had a start time yet, T?
We haven't had a start time yet, but we've had a few viewers asking how many penguins came in last night.
Yeah, of course you're asking how many penguins came in last night. So we haven't got a start time yet. None of these penguins have made the dash across the beach just yet. But last night we had 2,268 penguins cross our beach. So it was a really big night. In fact, last night was the first night that I was out on the stands. I was actually on the Penguins Plus stand that is below us right now, and I got to see them live for the first time in absolute months. I got to meet a couple of you water watchers who had come to visit for the night, and it did just remind me that, look, these live streams are really great, but seeing it in person is something extra special. And yeah, as I said last night, this waterfall was a waterfall, but it wasn't quite as big as this. This is going to be really interesting to see how the penguins deal with this just barrage of water coming towards them. Although our penguins are pretty adept in the water because they do spend a lot of their time in the water. So Ross, I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about where these penguins are, besides the penguins that we can see just thinking about coming in right now. Where are the rest of the penguins? What are they doing? Why aren't they coming in right now? What's the deal?
So the ones who are planning to come in tonight are probably rafting up out on the ocean a few hundred meters out to sea. So they're just not quite comfortable to come in yet, but they're gathering together in their groups, preparing to come ashore. And before that, though, they've been out to sea quite a long way. So some of them are actually out there or have been out there in the last little while wearing these little piggyback things. And so we do actually follow where they go in the ocean. So just before they come ashore, they're just hucking to each other, trying to gather together in little rafts.
And what does that sound like, Ross?
Yeah, nice. Huck, huck, huck. I reckon it's like a really violent hiccup, something like that. Yeah.
Classic. And so they're hucking. They're trying to find one another. And what happens once they find one another?
So you're kind of watching it now, but from those few hundred meters out to sea, they'll gradually make their way closer to the shore. They're kind of watching the sun go down. They're watching the sky get darker. They're probably watching the sky looking for anything that might be threatening, probably looking in the bushes as well to see if there's anything threatening in there. And then they seem to be kind of talking to each other. Look at these ones here. They're kind of looking at each other. They're watching what each other does. And they're seeing like who's going to go first, who's going to take the risk, and should I be following them? So how much risk am I willing to take? And who's going to lead the way? And so there's one. That's a good leader there. You got a good penguin right in the front there, leading the rest of them, and the rest of them are saying, well, if that one's out the front, maybe I'll be all right. Maybe I'll get away with crossing the beach and make it back to my burrow.
Got a head poking up to get them out of the shot.
So it's a very cooperative time, and that's, in the scheme of things, that's probably pretty unusual for the penguins. They're probably not usually cooperating too much. Out in the ocean, when they're fishing, they probably don't spend too much time together. To be honest, we don't know that much about it. But most likely they're on their own most of the time on the ocean. So this working together, hucking to each other, working together to get everybody across the beach safely, pretty unusual in the scheme of things for the penguins.
So it's a lovely little moment of teamwork. And of course, we see our regular water watchers hucking to one another in the comments, which is lovely teamwork as well. A bit of solidarity in these interesting times. So that's got to have been a start time, I would say.
I think so, wouldn't you? I do love how the people are hucking to each other. It seems really a very community kind of activity, hucking to each other. We could establish that as a thing, but it's very penguin-like. Yeah, they're working together.
All right, so we can see that I often call these rocks out the front here the salon, or some people call them the preening rocks or the resting rocks. There's not a lot of room for the resting rocks tonight. It's getting mostly taken over by our waterfall here. So it'll be interesting to see how many penguins we see sitting on those rocks tonight.
And our penguin counter, Sue, has just told us we've got 73 in that first group.
Fantastic. So how did your counting go, everybody? Did you see those 73? Wow, in fact, we've got so much water at the moment that we've got if you look just above me right here, we've got a stream going down the highway. So it's going to be easy for these, or easier perhaps, for these penguins to get home, easier than ever before, because they've got so much water. They do spend most of their time in the water. So what are they doing, Russ? When they're out in the water, what are they doing? Why do they need to go to the water? What are they doing when they're there?
When they're out in the ocean?
Yes, yes.
Well, I'm going to tie this in with a question from top fan, Saint Chrishelin Smith.
Yep, regular viewer. Hello.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Saint? Sure. Have you equipped some penguins with a GPS? We have, yes. We do it regularly. Andre, who you had on here not too long ago, that's one of the really regular ways that he studies the penguins. And so this little thing that I was just showing you, I'll try and get up a bit closer while maintaining social distance from Sky. This little thing, which we're fairly convinced looks like an eraser, I reckon it almost looks like you could rub out your mistakes on a page with. It's got a couple of little holes in the back there. That, impressively, is not only a GPS tracker, it is a GPS tracker, so we can follow exactly where the penguin's going on the ocean, but it's also following their dive profiles. So it's following how deep underwater they're diving, how long they're spending down there, and while it's doing that, it's following their activity. So it's monitoring how much work the penguin's doing. So a little accelerometer in there is following how hard the penguin's working on its way down. When it's on its way up, as it's swimming up, it might even be encountering some prey. And so we use this not only to see where they're going, but to see where on their trip they encountered prey, how deep the prey were, how regularly that prey was encountered in a particular area, and how close those encounters were together. And then when the penguins come back, we can get an idea of what they've been eating. So there's all kinds of things we can tie together. And this, when you say, have you equipped some penguins with GPS? This is GPS and a whole lot more. So it's kind of our special penguin GPS. So yes is the answer.
Penguin GPS, isn't that fantastic? So little backpacks that the penguins can wear. Do they look fashionable when they wear them, do you reckon, Russ?
No. No.
Easy answer. No, not very fashionable. Not fashionable, but good for science, and that's what we like. That's what we want to hear. Fantastic. So that was the first little raft coming through. T told us it was about 70-something, so that's fantastic.
73.
73. So now we're eagerly awaiting our next penguin raft. So I'm going to resist the temptation to show you these guys up close, because we're going to have extra long with the penguins tonight. We're going to be watching them till 8:30. So I'm going to resist the urge to show you them up close just yet. And I'm going to cast my eye back to the water because I want to catch the next big groups coming in. We've had, as I said, over 2,000 last night, 2,268 last night. So stacks and stacks of penguins came in last night, and I want to catch some of those big groups again. And I've got to say, as I said, I was out there last night. I got to hear some of the noises, and I picked up a few more noises for you. So here's another one that I noticed last night. Sounds a little bit like this. This is them at the burrows. They sort of go like that. Oh, yeah, Russ, give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. So I was trying my best to get a few more impressions under my belt, because I know we do enjoy those penguin noises, don't we? All right. So, any other questions that we've got, either Ross or T, while we wait for the next raft to come on in?
Can I say one?
Yes.
Pam Lynch, and I'm assuming, Pam, you're referring to this little GPS tracker that I've put on. She said, where do you put that?
Good question. I was actually wondering that myself.
Great question. So we put it on their back. It sort of sits about, if that's the back of the penguin. Do I have a penguin here? Oh, that's going to be okay.
This is one of the plushies that you can get if you become a Penguin Pal by signing up to our Penguin Foundation in the description.
Nice plug, Scott.
Thank you.
So a roundabout on the back in the middle here, and it's just attached with a little bit of tape. We're actually really careful to attach it in a way that it'll fall off. So we want it to fall off if it lasts for too long. We don't actually, if we accidentally lose a penguin, if it doesn't come back to the burrow that we expected it to come back to, we might not see that penguin for longer than we expected. We don't want the penguin to be burdened with this tracker for too long. So we want it to fall off after about 3 or 4 days. If it stays on for too long, it's just too much trouble for the penguin, and we're willing to lose the tracker for that. So, but interesting that we used to actually put them a bit further towards the back. And someone, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who did this research. I think it might have been Marcus Selton, I'm not sure, did this research and looked at exactly at how it affected the balance of the penguins as they swim. And he or she, I can't remember who it was, found that mounting it up the back, up just towards the middle of the back here was a little bit more stable. So that's where we attach it now, right in the middle, just between the fairy wings, just there.
Fantastic. So I've got another raft of penguins has just arrived. This is looking like a bigger raft than the one before, but I am a nonsense counter, as we have established. Have a go at counting, everybody. See how you go, and we'll see if we can get a confirmation from Sue as to how many it is. But yeah, it's a tough night for counting with that waterfall in the way and a reasonably high tide. It is going to be a tough night for Sue. So let's have a little watch as they cross the beach here. Yep, they're off and they're racing now. So I hope you're enjoying all these extra penguin facts that we're getting tonight. I certainly am. I'm learning some things that I didn't know, which is fantastic. And keep those questions coming, because Ross is literally looking at the stream right now and getting your questions and thinking about what he'd like to answer next. So these penguins seem to have gone right up the waterfall. Good on them. They are not shying away from this water, and they are just heading straight up like little salmon swimming upstream. I want to watch. Let's get a little bit closer because I want to see how they're dealing with these rapids. Are they swimming? Are they walking? A bit of both, aren't they? Oh, this is so interesting, everybody. We don't get to see this very often. As we said, it's a ephemeral pool. Oh gosh, they're struggling at the top there. Look at that. You might need to jump off to the sides, you little things. It is an ephemeral pool. That means it goes away, but yet we've had stacks of rain at the moment. As you can see, there's even a stream above us on the highway. So lots and lots of water here at the moment. So how many do you reckon that was, everybody? Let us know in the comments what you think. And we'll hopefully get a confirmation for you pretty soon. But while we watch them come up, let's get some more questions from either side. Who's got one?
I've got a question for Ross.
Oh, okay,
From Sub. How many GPS trackers do we have on penguins at any one time?
At any one time, not very many. Probably at most about half a dozen or so at any one time. And I was really hoping to come here and say, look out for one coming ashore with one of these tonight, because there's a few out there. But Megan, she does too much good work, and she got the last ones of them off at the moment. So she actually got 2 of them off today, but she's going to be putting more out soon. So if you're watching in the next few nights or over the next couple of weeks, keep an eye out for a penguin with a little backpack on it. Now, they'll pretty much be going up the beach side. I don't know if you watch the beach side as well, do you? Yeah, you do. So they'll be pretty much going up over there. But you might get to see, maybe it's more for the visitors who are actually on the stands. Keep an eye out for a penguin with a backpack. And if you let one of the rangers know, we might actually let Megan know and she'll come down and get it, I reckon. I forgot the question. What was the question? Did I answer it?
You answered the
question.
Good.
Job well done. Fantastic. Yes, so, and of course, when he's talking about Megan, he is talking about live stream host Megan. So these are some questions that you might be able to ask her as well on future nights of the Penguin live stream when she's back next week. You might be able to ask her a bit more about this sort of tracking, because this is what she does when she's not talking to you guys on these live streams. She is doing a whole lot of interesting work with penguin tracking. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fantastic? So here they come along the Penguin Highway, which is getting worn away by water coming down, and we've got multitudes of penguins coming past at the moment. These are, of course, the little penguins. That is their name. I'm not just saying, oh, they're a little penguin. That is their actual name, little penguin. They're about 33 centimetres tall, 1 kilo in weight, and they've got blue feathers. So that's what we're looking at right now. The cutest of all the penguins in the world. There's 18, let's say, 18 species of penguins in the world, and we've got the smallest and the cutest. And they've got this very distinctive waddle, as you can see as they walk along. I think they must be enjoying all this water tonight. Is there any more going to come? No, we might need to go back to the main screen and see what else is happening. Let's see if we can catch some more penguins crossing the beach before it gets too dark to be able to see them. Okay. So let's keep those questions coming. I'm loving this question and answering. So let's get a few more. We can answer some more any type you like. Some for Ross, some about penguins in general, whatever you like. What else have we got? One from either one?
Go.
Right. So Erin, who's 7, wants to know how far is the furthest burrow from the beach?
Good question.
You should answer that, T. I think T should answer that.
We've got some of them that are about 2 kilometres away. You tell them about it.
Well, yeah, so they can walk a pretty long way. One of the funny things is that the ones that are far from the beach especially, they actually don't necessarily follow a direct route to their home. Some of them will take what we would think is a pretty silly route. They go around in a big circle, and as you say, they can get up to about 2 kilometres, those pathways. They're quite long. But even though they find this ridiculous circular pathway that takes them a lot longer than it could, once they've found that path, they pretty much stick to it, and they never deviate. So a penguin won't get to its home, look over the hill and say, oh, actually, I can see the beach right there. I should go that way. That's way easier. They never do that. They go the same way every time for their whole life. They don't like change. They're not big on change, penguins.
Stuck in their ways, our penguins, aren't they? A bit stubborn, as we've seen from a few incidents over the night, haven't we? I bring to mind the episode with the goose. Very stubborn. They do not want to leave the path, not for anything, not for no one. All right, so on that, so we've been talking about the fact that they live in their burrows, they have to walk to their burrows, and they've got burrows all up this Summerland Peninsula here on Phillip Island. Now, we say that there's 32,000, oh, we've got another raft, I reckon, coming here. We say that there's about 32,000 little penguins here in the colony. Ranger Ross, how do we know?
Well, you would think, well, why don't you just go out and count them? That'd be good, wouldn't it? If you could count them all, if we could go and just scour the colony, maybe put a whole heap of researchers on at one time, scour the whole colony and count all the penguins. We can't do that. Not only do we not have those kind of resources to put into the field, we couldn't find them all. We wouldn't find them all. Most of them would be out at sea, so we wouldn't actually be seeing them, and we wouldn't know how many of the ones that live here we're seeing. The best we can do, we can scale that down quite a lot and say, let's just only count the ones who are breeding. Only count the ones who have a burrow and are actually breeding. So that pulls it down quite a lot, makes it a lot easier because all we have to do is look for burrows, particularly active burrows. We don't need the penguins to be there, we just need to see the burrows. So still, we could go out and count the burrows. That'd be 16,000 penguins for those with math heads. 16,000 or so burrows, sorry. We're not going to count 16,000 burrows. We wouldn't get an accurate number. So instead, we have a special method that basically tracks in from the coastline all the way around the Summerland Peninsula. And we track in and we look how far inland the burrows go. If we keep going inland, are there still burrows? Yeah, keep going, there's still burrows. And then along that line, we take a few samples, little samples, very technical. There's a pole with a rope. And we look in the area that rope reaches, how many burrows were in that area. And then Dr. Duncan Sutherland does some very tricky maths, and he gets a whole spread right across the island of best estimate, how dense the population is, how many burrows are active in different areas right around the peninsula. And that is the best way we have to estimate how many penguins there are. That's how we get our number each time.
And it almost feels like there's about 32,000 just in front of the screen right now. I'm trying to get a bit of a focus. It's finding it hard to focus because there's too much movement going on. So we just had a raft of penguins come in, and then a second raft just come up right behind them. And tough counting tonight. Poor Sue is going to be struggling to have a look at how many penguins we've got tonight. So yeah, we do science with our count. Of course, we've been counting our penguins since 1968. We have a penguin counter here every night, but then there's all sorts of other science going on behind the scenes. We've got your Rosses and your Megans doing all sorts of research as time goes on. Now, in terms of, I'll try and get these people out of the shot. So we've seen the video. Some of you may have seen a video. It's a great video of Jordan and Megan weighing our penguins and looking inside the burrows. Is that how we mostly weigh the penguins? Is that how we know how much they weigh? Is that how we get our information, by sending out our rangers to go and have a look in the burrows?
We do a fair bit, and it's really important to have that. And we used to do more of that. We're trying to do less and less. And I think you saw on that video of Megan and Jordan, they said that we try and do this not too much. We try to stay a bit hands off from the penguins. And we've managed to use a bit of technology to start to do that more and more. We're trying to not handle the penguins as much. And in doing that, what we're using for that are the Waybridges. So we've currently got 2 Waybridges. They're basically a little platform. And the penguins, as I said, they always follow the same path. Remember we were doing this? They always follow the same path to get home and to go out to sea. And so if we put on that path a little platform that can weigh them and also scan a microchip which is in their back, which identifies them, we can tell how much the penguin weighs, who the penguin was, what time it came ashore or went out to sea. And then from that, if we're seeing them in both directions, we can tell how long they stayed ashore, how long they were out to sea, how much weight they gained, hopefully, when they were out at sea, how much weight they lost when they were on shore. So that means how much food they probably gave to their chicks. So that is just something that's sitting in their way. They have to walk over it and they get weighed, but they don't get bothered in the process. So that's a lot better. We try to we still need to pull the chicks out of the burrows because we can't get them walking across the Waybridge. They're not doing it. But the adults, we try and do it with the Waybridges as much as we can. That's our new way, more and more.
Fantastic. Yep. So we've got these Waybridges, which are really good fun. I used to be able to see the numbers from the Waybridge on our Penguin app. Do we have that on the website as well?
We don't have that on the website at the moment.
But do keep your eyes out because we often do have access to our Waybridge data, which is really interesting. You can see who's coming home and all sorts of things like that. And on that, we've had questions previously, people asking, do we name any of our penguins? Do we, we talk about the fact that if you adopt a penguin, they get a name, or you can name them yourself. But do we give them any names at all, Russ?
We do. And I was just looking in my bag to see if I had one here. We put what's called a pit tag. It's a little tag the same as you would put in your dog or your cat. And basically, we name the penguins with very confusing names. We say, well, this penguin its name, it shall henceforth be known as 7AEF526. And so that gets their name. All it is a unique identifier. And so we try not to name them Peter or Paul or whatever. We try to name them just something that's going to tell us who that penguin is. And that is the only individual that gets that number. So through its life and through the entirety of our research, there's only one penguin that has that name. That's what's important. So we use silly names, they're letters and numbers, but it actually gets implanted in their back. You don't see it, but a lot of these penguins actually have them. And we can scan that to tell exactly who that penguin was at any one time. So at any time that we want to. So, and that's what the Waybridges do as well. Can I get another question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I got a top fan, Emma Martin. She says, Dr. Andre spoke of measuring dives and that some penguins are better than others and dive deeper than others. How do you do this? So I said, how do you know this stuff? Thank you, Emma, for asking one of those questions. So it comes back to my little tracker here. And I'm showing you the back there. There's a tiny little hole in the back of this that measures the depth that the penguin is, so how deep it is underwater. It's basically letting a tiny little bit of water in and measuring how deep underwater it is, and also measuring the temperature of the water. So that tells us that when we get the data back off this little thing, it tells us for each dive, how deep did the penguin dive. Also gives us a really good idea of its dive profile. So sometimes they'll dive straight down and straight back up again. Sometimes they'll dive down and then hang around a little bit and then dive back and then go back up again. Sometimes they'll go down and then on their way back up, they'll do a whole lot of stuff on the way back up, probably because they're following prey. And as they're doing that, we'll also tell how the temperature of the water changes. The temperature of the water as they go down and come back up is actually really important. That really determines where the fish are going to be sitting. And we call that change in the water, or that change in the water pretty much is the area where the fish will hang around. They'll hang around where the water suddenly changes temperature as the penguin goes down or up. And if there's a sudden change, it means that the fish are probably going to be easier for the penguins to find because they're hanging around in a particular part of that water column. If the water's all mixed up and the temperature is sort of the same and mixed together all the way through, it seems to be a lot harder for the penguins to find the fish. And so how they dive and how they follow the fish, how that temperature changes tells us a lot about that. And that's one of the things that comes back from these cool little loggers. Thanks, Emma.
Great question. Great questions, everybody. I'm really enjoying learning a little bit more about all the tracking that we do. It's such an honour to have our researchers with us talking to us about all of this sort of stuff. Now, have we covered what the penguins actually eat? I don't think we have.
Have we? I don't think we have, no.
No. So what are they eating?
Yeah, good question. So we used to think they pretty much only ate fish and some squid. And that's probably true for the most part. That's definitely a big part of their diet. It's probably the main part of their diet. But just recently, we've got different ways of analysing their diet now, and we actually get their poo. So by getting their poo and analysing the DNA that comes through in their poo, and Kathy Cavallo, one of our PhD students, just recently did a lot of work on this, and she found that a lot of the samples come back with things that we would never have seen before. The reason being, we used to only look for hard parts. Basically, the best way to look for what they were eating was to look for hard parts. So we'd find squid beaks, hard part, fish bones, particularly the ear bones called otoliths of fish. We could see those two things, so we saw fish and squid. But now we see more things, and specifically she found a lot of salps. And salps, they're a little bit like jellyfish. They look a little bit like jellyfish. They're not jellyfish, but they're very common in the ocean. There's plenty of them out there, but we didn't know that the penguins were eating them. So, and she found that it was about 3/4 or so of the sample. So 3/4 of the penguins that were sampled actually had salps in their diet, which is, they must be doing it quite commonly, and we never knew that before. So that's pretty cool. So it turns out their diet's a lot more varied than we thought, and they are eating a lot of those like gelatinous planktons and things like that. So that's pretty cool. New information.
Oh, we love new science here at Phillip Island Nature Parks. Now, another question we get a fair bit, Ranger Russ, is it's how fast do our penguins waddle? And I know that you've got a bit of impromptu science for this. It's probably...
I explained this to you the other day, and you thought it was funny, which is good.
It was funny.
Because I, as a data analyst, as a data person, one of the big parts of my job is to report numbers. But when I report numbers in a scientific context, I always report an uncertainty. And when we talk to people, we don't report those uncertainties. So I much prefer, the better way to say it is just to say, it's not a number, it's just a measure. My best measure, and this is from personal experience only, I haven't done official research on this, my personal measure for how fast a little penguin walks is around about the same speed. And this is just from walking next to them and following them up the pathway, about the same speed you would walk up the aisle if you're getting married. So you know that walk, you go right foot, middle, left foot, middle. That one, it's about that. It's around about that. So it's the aisle walk speed, approximately.
There you go. So Russ is marrying penguins in the name of science, just for us. So good on you. Thank you for doing that. Now in the screen we've got a shell gritter. She's walking down the opposite way. Now this is probably a penguin who is with egg. She has probably got some eggs developing in her belly, and she's probably heading on down to the beach to nibble on some shells to get a bit of extra calcium into her body to help her grow those shells. Do you do much with the shell gritters, Russ?
No, I don't. I'd say you guys know as much as that about me. I'll leave that to you.
Wonderful. Well, we just saw one walking down, and we are seeing a bit of that at the moment because it is slap bang in the middle of the breeding season. And today's also a pretty special day. Today is World Migratory Bird Day. So this is the day where we celebrate all things migratory birds. These are birds that travel long, long distances, and we've got some special ones that have just started arriving back here on Phillip Island. These are the short-tailed shearwaters. Now, do you have any, What do you find most interesting about the short-tailed shearwaters, Russ?
The short-tailed shearwaters. I reckon actually it's the babies that impress me the most. So the fledglings. So the adults, those who have heard about the adults who've listened to Sky and the others talk about the adults, they are incredible. And they fly, thousands and thousands of kilometers on each of their migrations. Just a few lazy thousand kilometers to get to their hunting grounds down in Antarctica and then come back to feed their chicks. But the chicks stay here and being fed by their parents. Before they're ready to fly, the parents leave. Before the chicks are ready to fly, the parents are gone and they're not coming back. Why? They're going to the Northern Hemisphere. The chicks, they come out of their burrows, they have a few nights to practice. They'll do a few practice flights around Phillip Island. They'll probably crash a few times. There'll be a lot of them around. They might flock up a little bit in the air. And when they think, I can do this, I can fly, you know where the first place they fly is? The Northern Hemisphere, the Bering Sea, right up near Alaska. So their first major flight, they leave here. They somehow know where they're going. They head out to sea first. They sort of go out to the east and then turn their way up north and go right the way across the equator and all the way up north to meet the adults. And they'll see the adults there. They won't meet their parents, or well, they might by chance, but they're going all the way up there. So that's the most impressive thing, I think, is the babies.
So a great thing to celebrate here on World Migratory Bird Day. Now we have only 3 minutes left, everybody, until we are heading across to watch Felix from the Cat Empire, Alice Sky and the Orb Weavers as part of our spring sessions for the soul. So make sure you stay tuned in for that, or conversely, make sure you click exit on our stream and head across to them in about 2 minutes from now. But I reckon we've probably got time then for just one last question for Ross. So very quickly, Ross, do you have any more questions that you'd like to look at? Or T, do you have any questions that Ross can answer?
One question for Ross. How much food do they bring home?
Oh, it changes. It's one of those things, I don't want to give you a number because it changes so much. Yeah, it can be, let's say a few hundred grams. So that's a pretty big feed. This is a 1 kilo bird, and they can bring back several hundred grams of fish or food. It's kind of a sloppy stuff by the time it comes out, but there will be kind of half fish and stuff that come out. A few hundred grams is a big feed for a chick. And if there's 2 chicks there, they've got to share it. If there's only one, which on average the adults will manage to fledge one of their chicks. So if there's only one chick already in the burrow, that one chick will be getting a really big stomach full of food. So it's a fair bit for that size bird.
All right, thank you for that, Russ. All right, so we've only got 1 minute left, so I will take this opportunity just to tell you all to please keep in mind, if you want to keep supporting the work that we do head to the link in the description to the Penguin Foundation. You can adopt a penguin. You can call it 7E265 or whatever you want. You can also give it a creative name if you like. Give it a name that no other penguin has, just like our penguins here at Phillip Island that we've learnt about tonight with Russ. So that's something that you can do to help us. Another thing you can do is enjoy your night with the live music that's about to happen in the next 2 minutes. So from all of us here, from T, do you want to jump back in, T, and say goodbye to everybody?
Just want to say thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yep. And from Russ, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Thank you, everybody. That was a pleasure. Glad to be here. I enjoyed.
All right, and yep, I think it is about time for us to sign off and let you enjoy the music. We're going to have a bit of a boogie here, a socially distanced boogie. So thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Goodbye, everyone. Follow the link in the description to find the music. That's where you've got to do. Follow the in the description.